Good evening, Warriors! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. I'm actually going to do 2 today. I hope you enjoyed the last one that we talked about what the purpose of semen retention was. And once again, great questions you guys are having. Unbelievable observations, and good or bad, I tell you what, we talk about them and we'll kind of nail them down a little bit and see if we can try to get some understanding of what's happening to us and all these tremendous gifts that the Lord has given us. So thank you again for all the comments, likes, and donations. I appreciate those. I got a bunch I got to go over probably this weekend and kind of do a bunch of shout outs next week, and also to get a bunch of new topics as well. All right, topic for this one. All right, so this is coming from Alan. So Alan, a shout out, my friend. We're gonna name this one Warriors Revolting Against the Matrix. The SR semen retention is the sword. All right, so let's get into this one a little bit. All right, so what he's saying basically is this, and I agree with Alan 100% on this one. I think that we talk about the world we have, and we talked about this a little bit in the last one. We talk about semen retention. I think, Warriors, one of the things that happened to me through a lot of this stuff over the last, especially over the last, 10, 15 years, I had finally an understanding that what I was told by the world in many different ways, coming from your parents to your teachers to society, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And I think sometimes what happens is because of this authority figure type of syndrome we have, where if it's on TV or if it's on the internet or celebrity's talking about it, it must be correct. Well, I have kind of realized over the years that is not true. And most of the time, it's the opposite. Obviously, people who play basketball or football, what do they know about politics? Or what do they know about living food? They're not expert. They have an opinion just like you and I do. And so this is why we have to be very careful about the things that we see and have a very discerning mind. And that means breaking down everything and not trusting everything just because science, and I was I was in physics and math and learned statistics, and I graduate school and all that kind of stuff. I have a doctorate, and I tell you one thing, that I still don't know a heck of a lot. Even with all that, there's lots of things that I continue to learn. And I think we trust these things. We say, okay, this is the so-called science, this is so-called math, well, they're all interpretations. Any kind of study you see is interpretation. Yes, there's some information there, but you can look at that and draw different conclusions than I would. And that means then a lot of it is within the eye of the beholder. And I figured that out as time goes on. So even news stories you see, they're slanted. Newspapers have been slanted since the 1840s. When you had, William Randolph Hearst all through the years in the 1890s, you had people who would go ahead and, for whatever reason, sell newspapers. If they think this is a popular theme, they go with it. You'll see companies still doing that to this day because they want to make money. They want to have an impact. They want power. They want prestige, status. So they're going to go ahead and say things they think you want to hear. Or they will try to fear you, create fear to have you do things. And this is something I've learned after 61 years of this glorious living with the Lord to understand this. And I think this is something that I want to pass on to my warrior friends here, that be careful with anything you see. Don't just listen to me. I'll tell you that's the same thing. Listen to other people. Talk, find out yourself your own experiences. So when Alan talks about the Matrix, he's talking about this world that's around us that's telling us how to live. Now, interesting enough, we don't emphasize religion like we used to. And that's because, as the Bible says, we live in 2 different worlds. We don't realize that. And of course, we're living in the world everybody else is living in one sense. But as time goes on, and the closer you get to God, and through retention, I believe you're getting closer to God, what ends up happening is that you realize there's a spiritual world that's the real world. And what you see physically is only the flesh, and the flesh is very weak, and this is why we get into temptation and other types of things that we get into. But the idea, guys, that we're living in two different worlds. And when we look at this, it's important to understand that what you see in front of you is not the only world you're dealing with. And that makes a big difference, because a lot of people they don't believe in any God or entity, and so they believe they are the God, and they only have two choices. And if you're the God, all of a sudden you're in control of everything, and you get shocked when things don't go your way. And all of a sudden you become depressed and anxiety, and there's a lot of issues that deal with the godlike complex that people have, and it's because of the ego. And the ego is very strong. So we talk about this matrix. It's very easy to get fooled all these years. When you're growing up, if that's all you hear, this is all you know. Until you start thinking and learning about this. And the more you allow God out of the picture, the more you get caught by temptation and other things. I talk about this idea of a treat or a vacation. What are you vacationing from? What are you doing a treat from? Most likely it's you're getting a treat away from God, or the things you should be doing, and now you're taking a vacation, right? You can go, when people go on vacation, what do? Live it up, right? Or they go out party and they live it up. It's like the fun is in the temptation, and the fun is not listening to God's laws and rules and understanding what that should be. So the fun is releasing, of course, and the fun is going ahead and partying, drinking, all kind, and getting bombed out where you can't think the next day and don't remember what you did. That was somehow fun. But think about that for a second. Think about all the things we do to so-called have fun. From what? From what? Having fun from what? So warriors, think about what you're trying to have fun from. You're trying to have fun from God and your Lord, right? Because having a peaceful, joyful life, you should not have to have all these ups and downs, excitement, adrenaline, all the time. Because you should have a peace within you, knowing that God is taking care of everything, and that you're working with God. And if you as long as you work in God's rules, you're fine. But just like when you look at the old movies and everything, they talk about, well, we're going to give people things, and they talk about a lot of these mob movies and everything. You know, give people what they want because the church won't give them to them. The church won't let them. And so we're going to give them what they don't get from the church. This, once again, goes back to this whole matrix system where people are being tempted on purpose to make money, to sell things, to gain control and power, brainwashing people, blackmailing people, to get people to do things. And all of a sudden, people fall for that because they don't have that strong belief, and they fall into the trap. And so that ends up happening is those people then live a life of a lot of depression, anxiety, hopelessness, things like that, because they've created a scenario where they listen to the matrix. But the good news, as we're doing this revolution ourselves and seeing retention, the good news is the fact that this is changing. And that little by little, men and women, especially men, are waking up and realizing that we don't have to follow this matrix. That in fact it's dangerous for us. And we saw this over the last couple of years with this outbreak we had. When you sit there and look at exactly what happened, a lot of suspicion mind goes up. Because of what ends up happening is, once again, the same old story that's been happening for years, with different types of things out there creating fear in people. And so people will do things out of fear because they're afraid, because they don't have that faith and hope in the background, and they cannot stop from buying into this new fad, new idea. That's why they buy new cars every 6 months, or buy new clothes and all these kind of things, because they want to be in style, because that's the temptation that's being pushed in our society. You're not a great person unless you're in this style. Well, you do that for 45 years and you figure out that's nonsense. That's all blown smoke because they want you to buy things. It's an illusion. The matrix is an illusion. What you're seeing out there, my warrior friends, is an illusion. Don't fall for the illusion. Listen to yourself and realize the flesh is your part of life that you're seeing in front of you. The spirit is strong. The flesh is weak. Inside, you know what God wants you to do. You have a conscience, and I believe that's God talking with you all the time. You know what's happening, and as long as you don't debate and go ahead and fight that and destroy your soul, which people do, over time when they're sleeping with people, releasing all the time, I think their soul is destroyed. then you're going to listen to God. And God will tell you some of this stuff is you shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't have to go partying all the time. You shouldn't have to be doing this kind of stuff. And those in my 1% club, in our warrior club, we know that. We know that's destructive. We know this stuff is destructive. You can just see it. I experienced it for 47 years. I know it was destructive. I couldn't control myself because I didn't have that level of faith and that ability now that I have now. So I had to learn the hard way, as a lot of us end up doing, learning the hard way. That's one reason I'm doing a lot of these videos, not to try to encourage you to think about the other world we're living in here. And that's the spirit. I mean, going back to the law of physics here, we're matter. Everything will be, you can't destroy or create matter. It's going to be there. It's just going to move into some other type of thing. So after we pass away, we're going to go into dust, into something else, almost like liquid going into gas or freezing it to go into solid. So the thing is, our bodies will change. The question is, what happens to our spirit and soul? That's the question. And if you have done the right things and you're following the right path, I believe you're going to transition into a tremendous experience. On the other hand, if you don't know the Lord or God, and you're not using retention, you're not doing these type of things to get closer to Him, you're probably going in a different direction. And I'm not sure what happens. I'm not really sure what happens with people like that, But I do know I don't want to find that out. So the thing is, warriors, there's a revolution going on here, and Alan's exactly right. Masculine men are stepping up and saying, enough of this. We're going to be back to men again. Not wussies, not beta males. We're going back to be men. And being a man and a warrior means that all of a sudden I am not gonna fall for this nonsense I'm listening to on radio and TV. I'm gonna decide for myself what's the best thing to put in my body, to work out with, to go out with, to date, to marry. All these things become my decision because I'm the one who has to really protect the world. I'm the one that has to provide for my family, community, and all those things. I'm the one that has to be the one that's got a lot of the weight of the world on their shoulders because of your strength, because of your physical prowess. And that's a fact, my friends. As they used to say, that's a fact, Jack, that we know. All right, well, enough today. Another great topic, just like the last question from Mona Lisa and Information Channel. I like this topic as well, guys. Once again, continue to battle on, realizing what's in front of you is an illusion. In 90% of the cases, you see some sincerity, and people are honest, but lots of times they're not. In fact, the people you trust the most may not be trustworthy. You never know. But trust your senses, trust God and within you, and you'll be able to continue battling on and not fall this temptation and continue living a tremendous and victorious life. All right, warriors, enough for this one. You guys have a great rest of your evening. I'll try to do one tomorrow. I think that, what I'm going to do one with, I think that, make $700, $50 per day. Did something with Zig Ziglar, and I like this one, so we'll talk about this one tomorrow about motivation. All right. Until tomorrow, my friends, two things. Again, first, make sure you know that every day is a new and great day to a great warrior. And secondly, continue to battle